Your speech doesn't matter. It's the impact you have on your audience that matters. It's so easy for us to get caught up in working on a speech. This is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to say it. This is what's going to be on my slides. We get so involved in what we're doing and what's in our speech, we forget that ultimately the quality of our speech is decided by the impact it has on the audience. How is that speech going to relate to them? How are we going to connect to them? That is the essence of what makes a great speech. And in this video today, we're going to make sure that you don't get lost in the weeds of working on your speech and forget about that key part. How do you have that superhero impact on the audiences you speak to? There have been a couple of speakers who have had a superhero impact on me. I remember as a high school student, I ran home so I could watch Barack Obama's inauguration speech. A few years later, I then went across to the United States. I attended Brendan Burchard's Experts Academy, and it was there I was inspired to become a speaker and go along this path. A few years back, I watched Linda Marie's second place finish at the World Championship of Public Speaking, and that speech inspired me that I could do so much more with my international speech entries, speaking on key social issues the way that she did in that speech. These are speakers who have lit me up and inspired me. And what was it about them that allowed them to have this superhero impact? How do we understand how we can have a superhero impact as speakers? In this video, I'm going to break down what I consider to be the 3 key factors that will have you having that impact on people. Where maybe one day in the future, there is someone running home from school to see you. Maybe one day in the future, there is someone who is traveling across oceans to see you. Maybe there is someone one day in the future who is going to take your example and be a champion for a great social cause just like you. How can you have that effect? Let's take a look. The first factor that allows you to have a superhero impact with your speaking is vulnerability. Vulnerability is not something that speakers were doing in the past. We probably really own the entire vulnerability ethos to Brené Brown, with her hugely successful TED Talk on the idea of vulnerability, and the idea that vulnerability does not make us be seen as weaker by the people who look up to us. It makes us seen as stronger by the people who look up to us. It's seen as being real, as being genuine, as being human, as being relatable. When you show vulnerability in your speeches, you are allowing that opportunity for connection with your audience's struggles and challenges. A key distinction I'm going to make here though, there's a difference between real vulnerability and fake vulnerability. Fake vulnerability is where you share knowing you're going to get that sympathy vote, where you share something that sounds like it's a vulnerability, but isn't really. Something like, you know what, I just really struggle with procrastination. I struggle with working too hard. That doesn't make you relatable and vulnerable. Or orchestrating something where, yeah, I had a really tough childhood and I've been able to be successful now, but yeah, I had a really tough childhood. That's fake vulnerability. It's using vulnerability almost as that emotional manipulator. You can tell the difference between real vulnerability and fake vulnerability. When you are sharing fake vulnerability, it doesn't feel difficult. Sharing real vulnerability does feel difficult. There's an expression actually from Brené Brown where she says, if I don't feel like I'm about to throw up before I'm delivering a speech, then I haven't tried hard enough. I haven't dug into that deep sense of vulnerability, those deep, difficult emotions. Real vulnerability should feel uncomfortable. It should feel a little bit nauseous. That's when you know you're tapping into something real. That's when you know you're tapping into something genuine. And when you're sharing from that real place, the audience feel the difference. The audience feel the difference when they see your discomfort, when they see you're sharing something, even though it's making you uncomfortable, that's when they appreciate it. That's when they respect it because they know it's real and genuine. Share with genuine vulnerability on stage and you can build a fantastic connection with the audience. share fake vulnerability on stage. You might fool one or two, but you aren't going to build that connection with all of them. And if you don't build that connection, you're not having that impact. The second aspect that allows you to have a superhero impact with your speeches is interaction. Superhero speakers make their speeches feel conversational. Now, here's the key distinction. Public speeches are never a conversation. When you look at the distribution between how much the speaker is speaking and how much the audience is speaking, a good level of interaction is like 95%, 5%. That is good interaction. That's not conversation. But what you want your speech to feel like is you don't want it to feel like a monologue, even though when you look at the time allocations, it is a monologue. The way you create that feeling of dialogue is you make the audience feel involved in the speech, even when they aren't actually speaking. There's lots of different techniques you can use to do. I've talked about these in lots of different videos, things like rhetorical questions, throwing out a question, and it doesn't need to be answered in order for it to feel like it's a conversation. Telling really immersive stories where the audience feel like they're there in the story themselves, even though they're not interactive with the story. And of course, you have your real, genuine interactions where you're getting input from the audience. Making speeches feel conversational. This is the route to success in speaking nowadays. When you look at the speeches of the past, even some of the great speeches, the presidential inauguration speeches, some of the wartime speeches of leaders of different countries, these speeches were always one directional. It was, I am the speaker and I am addressing you. It didn't feel like a conversation, it felt like a speech. That is the formal model of the past. And it's not that we can't learn from this formal model of the past, but what people want nowadays is a little bit different. They want that feeling of intimacy because people are used to watching speakers on their phones. They're used to having that feeling of that intimacy. So that when a prime minister of a country is doing a Facebook Live, it feels like you're sitting there having a conversation with them. That is what creates an impact in today's world. The more you can bring this conversational flavor to your speeches, the more connection you're going to build with the audience. And as I've iterated again and again on this video, it's the connection with the audience that leads to the impact on them. There is something special about speeches that has a way to reach people's hearts in a way that our other modes of communication sometimes can't. There is this energy and inspiration and drive that can come from listening to a fantastic speech. It's something that can stay in your heart for years, decades after hearing it. That is how we have our impact on the audience as speakers. And if you're someone who's wanting more impact with your speeches, I have a course that can help you. My Superhero Speaker course is all about helping you unlock your speaking superpowers so you can have that greater impact on your audience. This is a 5-week online course giving you all of the key fundamentals of how you construct a great speech. When you have a great speech in your pocket, it's then about finding those platforms and finding those arenas where you can reach the audiences you want to reach. The link to the course is in the video description below. Click through to find out more information about how the Superhero Speaker online course can help you increase your superhero impact. Now, to continue to help you with your superhero impact, I've got one more tip I'd like to share with you. The third way to have a superhero impact on your audience, provide leadership. And I know this might seem a little bit obvious to kick things off, but let's dig into this a little bit more. The great speakers of history have provided leadership. And I describe leadership as showing people the path. This is where I want to make a distinction between plans and platitudes. A lot of speakers speak in platitudes. If you see your stereotypical caricature motivational speaker, they will tell you all of these things. Believe in yourself, follow your dreams, set goals. They'll have all these snippy sound bites and slogans, and it all sounds good. Affirmations, blah, blah, blah. But what can you actually do with it? Okay, you want me to believe in myself. How do I believe in myself? You want me to follow my dreams. How do I follow my dreams? You want me to set goals. How should I set goals? This is where platitudes fall apart, and this is where speakers are not providing leadership. You can't tell your audience what to do. You have to show your audience what to do. And this is where plans beat platitudes every day of the week. Because when you set up a plan as a speaker, when you show people a roadmap, when you show people a blueprint, when you show them this is the path you want to be going down, that's leadership, that's support, that's guidance. Leaders provide the direction. Now, leaders don't necessarily know every single step along the road. When you look at the great speakers of history, Martin Luther King didn't know the exact steps as to how they were going to gain racial equality in the United States. But he knew the direction he wanted to go down. He knew some of the things that needed to change in order for that to happen. And that's what he provided the direction on. That's what he provided the action on. This is what we're going to do to fight the injustice. This is what we're going to do to raise awareness. And if we keep on fighting the injustice and if we keep on raising awareness, we are going down that path. We are going to that destination where we want to get to. And that's what great leaders do, is they provide that direction, they provide that action. This is what we're going to do to get us closer to the destination. That is what you have to do as a speaker as well. You have to show the audience the plan. Don't get sucked up into the platitudes. Give them the plan. Give them the roadmap. Give them the blueprint. Now, you don't need to give them every single detail along the way. Either you don't know it yet, and that's okay, or this is something you can't give them all of that information at once because it's overwhelming, or you want people to pay you for helping with that service and leadership. All of those things are absolutely fine, but you've got to start them on that journey. You've got to start providing that direction. You've got to show them that I do know the path, even if we're only going to focus on the first few steps at this moment in time. That is what superhero speakers do. That is how you have an impact on the audience. If you fill your audience with that warm, fuzzy feeling of, yeah, I just need to believe in myself and follow my dreams, that feeling passes real quick. You have not changed that person's life by making them feel warm and fuzzy for an hour or two listening to you speak. You make an impact on people's lives when they do something different because they heard you speak. That's what leadership is. That's what impact is. All the great speakers of history have been able to do that. When you're able to blend these things together, when you show up with vulnerability, with genuineness, with authenticity, when you get that feeling of intimacy and closeness and a conversational feel with your audience, and when you outline the leadership, the direction, the roadmap, that is when you'll have an impact on your audience. That is when people will be running home from school to watch you speak. That is when people will be flying across continents to watch you speak. That is when people will join the cause that you are championing because you spoke. Superhero speakers know how to make an impact. With these techniques, what impact are you going to make?